Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. Just want to start by saying thank you so much to everyone that reached out to me either in the comments, personal messages. I even got a few emails as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, completely ignore me. If you are one of those people that commented or reached out to me, thank you so much for the support. But the deadline is fast approaching for Game Week 12. We're now going to switch our attentions to FPL and approach the coming week with a positive attitude and hopefully set up our team in a way to get a green arrow heading into Game Week 13. So in today's video, I'm going to be going through my team selection, and I haven't given that much thought to it, which is very rare for me. An international break is normally full of overthinking and going through so many different combinations. But because I haven't spent that much time on it, I'm pretty certain that I'm going for one of a few players. So I've already narrowed down my options, but I need your guys' help to help me pick the optimal team ahead of Game Week 12. If you're enjoying the content here on this channel and you're happy to have me back on YouTube, then please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, it's that time of the video to just give a massive shout out to the legends over at OneFootball for sponsoring the videos on this channel for the foreseeable future. If you'd like to give OneFootball a go, it is a brilliant football application that has everything you want it in one place. You can either scan the QR code in the top left corner of the screen, or you can click the link in the description. If you click that link in the description, you can download OneFootball for free. It helps support the channel, and you also get everything you need for football with respect to transfer news, injury news, press conference updates. Over the international break, you can see if the players in your FPL team are featuring for their international teams. Make sure they're not getting injured and see if they are in form ahead of Game Week 12 and beyond. So, like I said, if you'd like to support the channel but also get the best free football app on the market, scan the QR code or click the link in the description, download OneFootball, and let me know what you think of it if you do download it. I'll be very quick with this one because for those of you that watch my Game Week 12 early thoughts video, then you'll know how I got on in Game Week 11. But for those of you that are either new to the channel or you didn't catch that video last week because you was taking a bit of an FPL break, just a quick presentation of how my team did in Game Week 11. Really happy to get another green arrow. And if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you know how badly I did in Game Week 9. I went from 60k to 200k in 1 week. That was the week when Salah scored 24 points. I didn't captain in my captain Havertz. I didn't own Mount, Foden, Chilwell. You guys know the week I'm talking about. And it was pretty rough for me. So I went from 60k to 200. I then went from 200 straight back to 78k. And I've gone from 78k to 34k. So this does a couple of things. Number one, it shows you how tightly packed we are together. And number two, it shows you that a bad game week isn't the end of the world. Not only for our mental health is that important to know, but actually practically that I had like a 250% red arrow, and 2 weeks later, I've halved the rank that I started with in Game Week 9. So it just shows how tightly packed we are together. Don't panic. Even if you have like 3 or 4 bad weeks in a row, even if you've gone up to like 500k or a million, you are literally 2 or 3 game weeks away from being in the top 100k again. So don't stress. Use me as an example. I didn't do anything special. I didn't even change my team. I think I've made like 1 or 2 transfers since Game Week 9, if that. So it's not that I've done drastic things with my team. It's just one of those things. It's variance. Some weeks you'll have a great week. You get all the luck in the world. And some weeks you'll have a terrible week and nothing will go your way. But I suppose the defense was the big thing for me in Game Week 11. It feels like an age ago now. It feels like months ago. But Ramsdale, Trent, James and Cancelo were brilliant. And as I've said in the early thoughts video, having Trent, James and Cancelo is the dream at the moment. They're the 3 best right backs, arguably in world football at the moment, but definitely in the league. I know Cancelo's been playing left back, but I think if you could, even if I was on wildcard again now, if you can choose the ideal back 3, it's got to be Trent, James and Cancelo, backed up by the likes of Livramento. And as you can see on my bench, I did bench 32 points in Game Week 11. I'm not stressed about it. A strong bench is great, because it means that if your bench is called upon, you've got it there. And benched points only really hurt psychologically. That doesn't damage my rank. And realistically, I was never going to choose to play Emerson and Livramento. The only way I would have played Emerson or Livramento would have been ahead of Armstrong. So I would have lost points. So I actually got my benching decision spot on, because I was never going to play Emerson or Livramento ahead of Mbomo or Tony. That would have been a terrible decision. I'd only be saying that's a good decision based on outcome. And listen, so essentially, don't worry if you've got benched points. It's part of the game. It's part and parcel of it. Just take it with a grin and just say it's one of those things. Obviously, if you was tempted to bench boost, it might hurt you a little bit. But with Foster against Arsenal and with Norman against Brentford, who's a 4.5 million holding midfielder, it just didn't seem right to me to use my bench boost this week. So I'm not stressed about it. Overall, it was a fantastic week. 75 points in a low-scoring week was brilliant. It puts me on exactly 750 points, which is a really nice whole number. 3/4 of the way to that 1,000-point mark. 34k overall rank, pushing towards that top 10k. I think we're about 15 points off at the moment. So a couple of good weeks and we could start to see a 4-digit rank, which would be absolutely amazing. Let me know down in the comments, what is your overall rank? And also, I'd actually be really interested. What is your overall rank now? And what is your target rank? Maybe we'll say target rank by around game week 20 and then maybe target rank by the end of the season. I'd just be interested to see where you're at the moment and where you're targeting to be by the end of the season. And it's worth noting that because we're so tightly packed, I wouldn't stress about rank too much. You could be ranked at 2.5 million and still finish in the top 10k. I'm not saying that to make you feel better. It's genuinely possible. So let me know what your current rank is. Let me know what your target rank is. And I'll read through the comments and I'll reply to some of them as well. Let's jump into it then. As I said, obviously I've had FPL on my mind as I always do, but like I said, I just haven't been doing like extensive research. And I think sometimes that's good, not only for your mental health outside of FPL, but also just to clear your head with respect to FPL, because we spend so many hours per week. Sometimes it's nice to take a step back and approach it with a fresh pair of eyes, which is essentially what I've done this week. And I'll be honest, I think even if I've done extensive research this week, I'm pretty certain what I want to do with my team. However, I know how much you guys know about FPL. You're always helping me out. I'm helping you out. It's a mutual thing on this channel. So what I'd like you to do is, if you've got some creative things that you think I could do with my team or something that I've not mentioned, because like I said, I haven't explored loads of different avenues here, do let me know down below. That can be your way of giving back to me as well as liking and commenting and subscribing to the channel. You can help me out with my team. So the defense this week isn't great with respect to fixtures, but I also don't think it's as bad as necessarily it looks at first glance. So Ramsdale against Liverpool is not great, but listen, your keeper, because you hold them long term, unless you're using rotating keepers, you're always going to have a week, 2-3 weeks across a 20 game week period where your keeper has a rough couple of fixtures. And this next sort of 5 or 6 games for Arsenal aren't great. But these are the sort of fixtures where the keepers will get the hauls. We saw Ramsdale against Leicester. No one really predicted a clean sheet there. And that's the sort of game that you can come away with a double-digit return. So I'm perfectly happy keeping Ramsdale during this tough run of fixtures. And hopefully he'll get 1 or 2 big 10-pointers. I do not think that Liverpool will be a game that he does that, but we'll see what happens. Livramento against Norwich. I know he's actually yellow flagged on the app. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I haven't actually seen an update. If there is an update, you can let me know down below. But as far as I know, it was more precautionary. And a lot of the Saints fans are saying that they think that was because he's had so many minutes. And it was almost like an agreement just to basically, before he gets injured, just say, have the international break off. So I think he'll be fine. I do have a solid enough bench, so I'm not too stressed. But this is the sort of fixture. I've been happy to have Livramento on my bench every week. I think this is the sort of fixture you do really want to play him for. And it would be classic FPL, wouldn't it? If the week that we finally will start Livramento, he's almost definitely going to concede and get a yellow card or something, isn't he? But we'll keep our fingers crossed. Trent against Arsenal is not a great fixture, but we saw last week Trent against anyone can be dangerous. The attacking threat of Trent, James and Cancelo means that every single week I'll be playing these guys. And James against Leicester and Cancelo against Everton, they're not perfect fixtures, but Leicester have been struggling a little bit, and Everton in particular, that looks like a very good game for Cancelo. So I'm happy with the defence. I would say that I think there's a relative chance that Cancelo's benched. I've been saying that for about 12 weeks now. But the reason for that is they've got PSG a couple of days after, or a few days after the Everton game. And then they've got West Ham the weekend after that. So within very close succession, within a week, they've got Everton, PSG, West Ham. I think Everton is a game that City could pretty much stroll along and win without their best team. Whereas I think PSG and West Ham, they're going to have to put out very, very strong 11s, and they're going to have to be at it from the start. So if Pep's looking to rest and rotate in a couple of these, and we have seen rest and rotation in other teams following the international break, I think Everton could be the one. So I would not be surprised to see the likes of Cancelo and Foden rested ahead of Everton. So just make sure you've got your bench order sorted, because Cancelo is the sort of guy that if he doesn't start, he might not come on at all. But I'm going to start him anyway and just hope that he continues his run of games, because Pep has been starting him no matter what. But I do think that Everton is the sort of game that we could see some rest. I didn't even sort of really mention it in the first section, but you guys would have seen I've got Emerson Royale on my bench. He was my transfer last week. I did Diaz to Emerson Royale. The reason for that, as we'll discuss in a minute, was to give me some money in the bank to get to Son, and also just to take some money out of my defence. Yes, I think defence is where the points is at the moment, but I think it's mainly with Trent, James, Cancelo, and potentially Chilwell, but mainly those 3 guys. I don't think you need to pump 5 premium defenders to your team. I think it's just, if you own those 3, you're pretty set. And I just wanted to take a little bit of money out. I wanted to get onto the Spurs defense, and I also wanted to give me some money to then put into my attack. So I brought in Emerson Royale, and currently he is my first sub. But he's got Leeds at home. Tottenham have Leeds at home, and that's quite a nice fixture. So if Livramento is injured, or if Cancelo is rested, I'm not too stressed about that, because I think I've got a really, really good first sub there. And I've also got Saka on the bench, as you can see. So my bench is pretty much very, very strong once again. I've made it so that I have a relatively strong bench. So I'm happy to call on any of those if either Livramento can't play, or Cancelo, or potentially James. But we know if James is benched, he'll probably cameo. So I'm happy with the back 4. I don't think it's great, but a bit of psychology here for you. You cannot have the perfect team every week. We discussed it in one of my previous psychology videos. Your team will not look perfect every week. And I think the mistake we can make as FPL managers is constantly making transfers to make sure we have the perfect team every week. And that's where we start getting caught out. Then we need to start making hits. And we start to be very like knee-jerky and reactionary. And that's something I've really focused on this season. It's just being at peace with my team every week. It's not always going to be perfect, but if I plan long term and I make sensible decisions, the majority of the time my team will look pretty good. So little tip for you there, but I'm pretty happy with my back line. Let's take a look at the midfield. So guys, we're going to rock a three-man midfield this week unless anything changes. As you can see, Saka is currently second sub because of the Liverpool game. Norman, as always, third sub. I wouldn't mind playing Saka if some injuries arise, but out of choice, I would never really play an attacker with average underlying stats against one of the best defenses in the league in Liverpool. So again, I wouldn't mind playing him, but I'm not planning on doing it at the moment. Salah, we will have in our team every week, probably until the end of the season, unless he goes off to AFCON. And if he does, then it's a bit of a discussion to be had, but we'll have that nearer the time. As you can see, I currently only have the Vice armband on Salah. Now, I don't know if that's because I've got stuff going on in my personal life and I've sort of taken a bit more of a chilled approach towards FPL, or whether I genuinely would have looked against captain him anyway. I think it is a week that you could look to captain someone else, and that's why I'm currently looking to captain someone else. I also don't think that you feel like you need to, because there aren't that many standout options, because the people with the really good fixtures, the teams with the really good fixtures, don't have that many great options to select, and those that are great options don't have the best fixtures. So while Salah isn't a standout option, I don't think in and of himself, I don't see any other standout options, in which case it almost goes back to Salah as the obvious option, because at least you can rely on him and you can rely on Liverpool. So bit of a tricky one. At the moment, he's got my Vice armband, but please don't take that as gospel. That's not definitely what I'm going to do. I could quite easily change that. Havertz will almost definitely be my transfer out this week. I did check the injury updates as of recording this video on Monday afternoon. It looks like Werner and Lukaku are still hoping to be back for the upcoming game against Leicester. Even if they are back in full training, I'm not sure that they would start. It looked like Werner was ahead of Lukaku. It now looks like it might be the other way around. I don't know at the time of recording how fit they are. Even if Lukaku and Werner are still out, I think they're going to be back very soon. I don't think the Leicester game is that amazing, and I haven't been convinced by Kai Havertz anyway. So I can't see a world in which I don't use my free transfer on him, just because he's quite expensive. His underlying data is pretty rubbish, and I just want to use that spot to bring in one of three really brilliant options moving forward. So I'm pretty sure Havertz will be the transfer out this week. But like I said, if you've got any other opinions on how to deal with my team with 2 free transfers and 2.2 million in the bank, do let me know. Mbomo, I wouldn't say he's on his last legs, but he is on thin ice in my team, because you can put up great underlying data on a repeated basis, but if you don't start to follow through on that, there's only so much patience you can have as an FPL manager. And I'm trying to be really patient this season, and I think that is one of the things that I've been doing really well. But there's a difference between being patient and failing to react to what you're seeing in front of you. So the data is still decent from Mbomo. It's not fantastic, and Brentford's data is slowly decreasing over the last few fixtures, and the fixtures have been pretty decent. They almost look like a team similar to how like Sheffield United and Burnley have been in the past when they had their good seasons, where they almost perform better against the top teams and they struggle against the lower teams in the league, like the relegation candidates. So if that is the case, then you almost don't really want your Brentford players to target for these easier fixtures. But I'll definitely be keeping him this week. I'll definitely be starting him. But him, along with Ivan Toney, are definitely on thin ice in my team. So, as I said, Havertz currently the planned transfer out. At the moment, it will be one of Heung-min Son, Phil Foden, or Diogo Jota, potentially 2 of them, as we'll discuss in the next section. But yeah, I think at the moment I'm leaning to Havertz out for one of Jota and Son. They are probably the top 2 priorities for me this week. Let me know down below if you prefer either of those. We did discuss it in the Gameweek 12 watch list, but I'm still not sure. Jota has the better underlines, as we'll discuss in a second, but Son has the better fixtures. It's a really tricky one. Let's take a look at the forwards. I'm very, very happy with the forwards this week. The fixtures look incredible. You know what that means. All 2 pointers, maybe a couple of 1 points in there as well. It just seems to be the way at the moment. As I discussed in the last video, it's just such a dire situation looking at the forwards at the moment. I don't want any of them. If I could play sort of a 5-5, then I would, because the midfield and the defence definitely looks like where the value is at the moment. But some of these forwards just look like they're primed to explode with the fixtures coming up. Some of them are putting up decent numbers as well. It's just that none of them are following through on that. However, I think if I could choose 3 forwards for this week, I would arguably choose the 3 that I've got. So hopefully, finally, maybe the international break was a good reset for some of these guys. They look like they maybe could do something this week. Fingers crossed. We'll start with Toney, because we just discussed Mbomo. As I said, I think the Brentford players in my team are definitely on thin ice. The great thing is that Mbomo in particular is very cheap. Tony's not that expensive, and therefore they can be benched for future weeks. But I'll probably only look to carry one of these guys moving forward. I'll be honest, I would prefer to hold Mbomo just because his underlying stats are much better. And when I watch Brentford, he looks like the more likely. But there are a lot of really, really great midfielders and not many great attackers. So I think there are lots of, like Conor Gallagher, Smith Rowe, there are lots of guys I would want to replace Mbomo with. I don't even know who I'd want to replace Tony with at the moment. As we'll discuss in my watch list in a second, there is one striker currently on my watch list. But outside of that, I'm not that convinced by any of them. So Tony will have this week. Along with Mbomo, I'll give them this one more chance, and I'll reassess next week and maybe start to look to ship out one of my Brentford guys, potentially both of them, if Brentford still don't look great following the international break. Armstrong has been a strange one for me because I brought him in on my wild card and he was my number one differential, but I was so confident because his underlying stats were okay. Southampton's were okay as well, but the fixtures looked great and he was 100% nailed for 90 minutes every week. He then got dropped 2 games in a row, but I was quite happy because in one of those games I got Livramento's points, and in another game I think I benched him anyway and therefore brought on a player that also got some points. So whilst he wasn't in my team, because I wasn't playing him, I got other people's points. And then he came back into my team last week, got me 9 points. And now, because Broja's come back from international break and picked up another knock, I believe, I'm almost certain, I don't want to say that with too much confidence, I'm pretty certain that Armstrong will start against Norwich. So now I've got on my hands a player that's just scored in the last game, still putting up average at best underlying statistics, but looks like he could be primed for a really good performance in Gameweek 12, and I don't think many people loan him. So I'm delighted to own Armstrong this week. I do think that long term, due to the fixtures and due to the fact that there could be rotation in that front two, I still think that Armstrong is probably a transfer waiting to happen. But for the time being, I'm glad that I can start him with relative confidence against Norwich and hope that he gets some sort of return. And there he is, the man that we're all talking about at the moment. Harry Kane scored a hat-trick against the best team in the world, Albania. But no, really, it is quite funny how quickly we're like, Kane's terrible. Don't want Kane in my team. Son's obviously the best. Oh, what's that? Kane scored a hat-trick. Get him in my team now. It's recency bias and it's availability heuristic. There's a lot of cognitive biases to support that. And I'm not mocking anyone because I do it as well. As soon as someone does anything, whether it's in an easy game for a different team, an international break, our heads turn because we want to jump on a player that's in form as such. But I'm not sure I'd read too much into the Albania game. But what I would say is there were good signs in the last game for Conte's first 2 games in particular. He's playing a lot higher up the pitch, Kane. His average position is significantly higher when Tottenham have the ball. The touch maps are a little misleading because he does a little bit of tracking back, so I wouldn't look at them too much, but he is getting forward enough and he's staying a lot higher than he used to. And I just think that Conte will start to get a little bit more out of him. His attitude looks slightly better. It doesn't look amazing, but Kane's attitude never looks that great anyway. He's that sort of player that does a lot of strolling around and sometimes look like he lacks energy. I think that's just his style. So this captaincy isn't just because of the Albania game, but obviously it's great to see him put a few goals in. I don't care if it's against a 4-year-old. The fact that he scored a goal will give him a bit of confidence. You know, I'm a big into psychology. I'm not talking about stats here. I'm not talking about form with respect to ability or anything like that. Purely psychologically, that will give him a bit of a confidence boost. And Leeds at home is a fantastic game. It really is. It probably does suit Son slightly more. I still think it's a great game for Kane. And like I said, I think there will be weeks to captain against Salah, and I think this week could be one. Captaincy aside, I'm obviously delighted to own him because now people are looking to be bringing him in. I still think I would probably favour Son in my completely unbiased opinion because I own Kane, so that's not biased at all. I still think I would favour Son. However, if your current structure allows you to get to Kane more easily and you think you might want Ronaldo in game week 16, it might make sense to just go for Kane because at the end of the day, Son's stats are pretty average. Kane's stats are pretty average as well, even worse than Son. So you're not really making a decision based on stats. You're really making a decision based on either gut feeling or the structure of your team. So I think Kane's definitely an option for this week for those who are looking to transfer him in, but I'm delighted to have him, and he's definitely an option for captaincy. At the moment, in my team, he is the captain. So that is my team ahead of Game Week 12 as things stand. Obviously, 2.2 million in the bank is quite a lot, and 2 free transfers. Without any price rises and price falls at the moment for Havertz and Son, I can afford to go from Havertz to Son in one move. So I can go straight there. It would leave me 0 in the bank. So I've checked the price change. It doesn't look like Son's rising tonight, and it doesn't look like Havertz is falling tonight. Both of them are relatively close. I wouldn't stress too much though, unless Son suddenly starts getting brought in by loads of managers in the next couple of days, which he shouldn't because it's an international break. I think they might survive the next few days. So I think I'll still have that option around Wednesday, Thursday. So that's one option, is Havertz to Son. And then as I said in my other video, I still have the option. I could potentially go Havertz to Jota and Saka to Foden with my 2 free transfers, which is also a great option because rather than just getting Son in for Havertz, I'm getting Jota and Foden in. But I'm obviously not getting Son in. I think Son will go crazy over the next 4 game weeks. I just fancy it. It's my gut feeling. I'm not that isn't backed up by the stats at all, as we've discussed already. But I really fancy Son in the coming game week. So I'm sort of facing this dilemma of, do I go for Son or do I go for Jota, which would allow me to get Foden? I'll be honest, even if I go for Jota, I don't think I would go for Foden this week as well because I think he's going to get benched. That's just again, a gut feeling. There's nothing to back that up other than the fact that I think Foden's first choice, and I think PSG and West Ham are more important games than Everton. But either way, who would I, if I bring in Foden as well, I'd probably have to bench Livramento, or Tony, which I don't really want to do. So it will probably be either bringing in Son for Havertz or Jota for Havertz. If I bring in Jota, it leaves the option open to go from Saka to Foden. If I bring in Son, I'm keeping Saka, which isn't an issue at all because it leaves less money on my bench and it means I'm not having as much of a benching headache every week. So those are my current options. What we're now going to do is we're going to take a look at my watch list, which includes some of the players I've just spoken about. We're going to discuss them in a little bit more detail. And I'm going to have a bit of a live tinker. And I'll discuss some different options, and we might look ahead to some future game weeks as well. So this is back to the Raptor that you know and love, or hopefully you know and love, and it'll be a little bit more long form, a little bit more unscripted. So if you're just interested in sort of getting my team, this is my team, 2 free transfers to use. It will likely be Havertz to Son or Havertz to Jota. If you're here for the sort of drawn out, long talk, long form commentary over my team, then stick around. We're going to get onto that now. We'll be pretty quick with this because I just rambled on for a little bit about the players that I'm looking at, and I'm going to do it in the next section as well. But I just wanted to present them here for you because it's easy sometimes to visualize rather than just me rambling on. So these are the 5 players currently on my watch list. As I've said, the 2 of the stars are the 2 main options this week, which is Jota and Son. I just think over the coming weeks, for different reasons, Son fixtures and Jota underlying stats and probably being nailed in the absence of Firmino, I just fancy both of them to do pretty well over the next few. So I would like to get them both, and we'll discuss potentially ways to get them both if there are any in the next section. But those are the 2 that I'm fancying. As we discussed in the last video, I'll try and remember to link it above. If not, it will be linked at the end of the video or in the description. In my Game Week 12 watch list video, I discussed the fact that Jota's underlying stats are so much better than Son's. If you just take a look at the non-penalty expected goals and expected assists per 90, 0.81 for Jota, 0.44 for Son. It's so much better for Jota. His underlying stats are so good. If the fixtures were identical, it would be an easy option to go for Jota for me. But the fixtures just really, really are good for Son, and I just fancy him to do well. It's more of Jota's sort of the sensible, obvious pick based on underlying stats. He's playing number 9 for the best attacking team in the league, and the fixtures aren't even that bad. Arsenal, Southampton, Everton, Wolves, Villa aren't terrible fixtures. It's just I've just got this gut feeling that Son's going to do really well, and I think the double up of Son and Kane could be brilliant. Foden's the other option, as I said. His underlying stats are better than Son's, not as good as Jota's, but I'm not sure that now's the time to bring him in with Everton, West Ham, Villa. I don't think any of those, again, are terrible fixtures at all. They're pretty similar to Jota's coming up, but I think I'd rather maybe jump on Foden around game week 14, 15, 16-ish. So I don't think I would target Foden this week. It would probably be either Jota or Son. I've also put Gallagher there. The reason for putting Gallagher there is if potentially Havertz does decrease or Son does increase and I still want to get Son in, I would have to downgrade Saka to fund Son. And the way I would do that is I'd downgrade Saka to Gallagher and I'd upgrade for Havertz to Son. So I've just put Gallagher there because if I need to downgrade Saka, Gallagher is 100% my first choice. I much prefer him to Smith Rowe. The underlying statistics are much better. The fixtures are better as well. Yes, Smith Rowe is in absolutely fantastic form and his finishing has been exceptional. I just prefer Gallagher myself. The 5th person on this list is, of course, Callum Wilson. I'm not looking to change my strikers at the moment, but if I were, and for those of you that are looking to, Callum Wilson is the top of my list. His underlying stats are really, really subpar at the moment, as are Newcastle's. But for 0.38 expected goal involvement per 90 to be subpar, it sort of shows you the caliber that Callum Wilson has, and the fact that he can put up consistently good underlying stats of around 0.5 expected goals and expected assists per 90 across the previous seasons. It just demonstrates that he's a really, really clinical and prolific striker. He gets into good positions, he gets big chances, he has quite a few touches in the box, and he's also on penalties. I just think he's one of those reliable strikers that's likely to get you 9 points every other week, and I quite like that at the moment when I'm struggling to rely on any of the other strikers. So not looking to change my strikers this week, potentially not even next week, but if I was, Callum Wilson would be top of my list. So they're currently the 5 players on my watch list. You can let me know down below what your watch list looks like. Obviously, if I were you and you don't own the likes of Trent, Cancelo, James, then they would also be towards the top of my list as well. And potentially you could be looking to bring in the likes of Harry Kane as well. But obviously I already own all 4 of those players. So do let me know your watch list down below. This is my watch list. Only 5 players, which is a lot shorter than usual. We're now going to jump into a bit of a tinker, a little bit of looking ahead and discussing how going for either Jota or Son might change my future plans and which one I'm currently leaning towards at the moment. Right, guys, let's do this. Like I said, these sections, just bear with me. Nothing planned. Haven't really looked at it that much over the last week either. So let's just have a little bit of a tink. You can have some of my raw thought process behind it. So as I said, currently 2 free transfers and 2.2 million in the bank. It's a great position to be in. But what it does mean is that because you can do so many things, you often look back at these points across the season and say that was a turning point either for the better or for the worse. So what I want you to think about if you're ever in these situations is don't put too much pressure on yourself, but this is the sort of thing that can spiral. Going for a slightly cheaper player can mean you can get another player elsewhere, and then you can downgrade a defender and upgrade a defender. Upgrading that defender means X, Y, Z, and it means you can get a captaincy in here. So it does start to develop and it almost snowballs. So don't just think about, I want Son this week, I shall get Son this week. Think about what that does to your team moving forward. You can reverse anything with a couple of transfers, but do just bear in mind the effect that it's having on your team longer term. So, as I said, I think I want to try and only use 1 free transfer this week if I can, but I'm not too stressed if I have to use 2. But realistically, as I said, this is quite a nice transfer. I think I would like to try and look into this psychologically. The idea that often we're more inclined to make moves when we've got 0 in the bank. Like, it almost entices us. We're like, yeah, I can just about afford that. Therefore, I want to do it. I wonder if Son was like 8 million, whether I would be going for Son still. Or is it because I feel like he's a premium and because I feel like I can afford him, that's why I'm going for him? Let me know down below your opinion. I don't know the psychology to support that. I'd have to look into it and have to do a bit of reading. But I wonder if there's some sort of almost pressure we put on ourselves because we can almost afford it, or the desire to spend our full budget potentially. It's probably a little bit of anchoring bias to the original price. I'd be very interested. Anyway, I'm rambling. But Son is definitely an option. What that would mean is that I have triple Spurs, which is kind of scary because they're pretty terrible so far anyway. But I'm not playing Emerson Royale every week, and defenders are different to attackers. So I'm considering these all in isolation. I think the double up of Son and Kane could be really, really nice. I do then have a double up of Brentford and Spurs, though, and both have looked pretty shocking recently. So I'm not sure how smart that is. So that's the first option. The reason that I'm not necessarily too keen on that is that Saka's fixtures coming up aren't that great. He hasn't been great particularly so far, and I would be tempted to try and upgrade him to someone like a Jota or Foden, and I just find that tough. When I've gone for Son, I then can't really do much with Saka. I could potentially bring him down to Gallagher, which is a great option, as we've said. Let me put Gallagher in there. He's been absolutely fantastic recently. So I could do something like that. Obviously, I'd still have 0.5 million in the bank, and that's the way my team would look. I don't mind that at all. But then it starts to get to the case where, well, I also want to change Tony and Armstrong, because Armstrong's fixtures aren't that fantastic coming up. And also, I think once Broja is back and once Redmond's back, I don't think that he'll start every single game. Do I want a rotation risk for these games coming up? Not particularly. And then Tony as well. The fixtures aren't terrible for Tony, but his underlying stats are so bad. And I just don't really think I want him. The fixtures aren't great enough now to warrant keeping him if he continues to struggle. So I don't mind getting Son and Gallagher in. They're both fantastic options, but then I don't really have the money to do anything with the rest, with my 2 strikers. So that's sort of the Son route. That's what I'm currently thinking for that. The other option is Havertz to Jota this week. And we'll say I'm only doing just that move, Havertz to Jota. That gives me even more money in the bank. I now have 2.8 in the bank. The reason I like that is because I would just make that move probably. And then next week, I've got so many options. I could do Saka to Foden, which is a great option. Oh, sorry, it lagged out a little bit there. Saka to Foden. And I would still have 0.8 in the bank, which is really nice. The team would look like this. And that way, I have a much stronger midfield of Foden, Jota, Salah. And then I can focus on taking out Mbomo, which I could do for Gallagher the week after. So if I had 2 free transfers, you can see straight away, of course, but this is obvious, that Jota being £3 million cheaper than Son allows you to do so much more. That midfield 4 looks significantly better than the other midfield 4, in my opinion, but it doesn't have Son, and I do really want Son as well. So I guess I have to work out how much I want Son. But the other option I could do then, rather than doing Saka to Foden, I could keep Saka, which isn't an issue. I could keep Mbomo. What I could then do is something like Armstrong to Callum Wilson. Oh. I could do Armstrong to Callum Wilson, which could be a great option. Then the team would be looking like this. I'd still have 1.4 to potentially downgrade Tony. Upgrade Tony, sorry, as well. And Tony will be slightly out of price now, wouldn't he? So I'd have to look at some potentially different options there. Off the top of my head, there aren't that many, to be honest. But that would leave the option open to upgrade Tony, especially if I do, for example, that would help. Something like Gallagher in for Saka. And then now Tony out for Antonio. Right? FPL website's having a bit of a fit here. Something like that. Potentially. I think what I'm getting at here, I'm almost trying to show myself as well when I do these sort of live Tinker sessions, is that the smart play here is to bring in Jota. It just allows me to do so much in the coming weeks, and it allows me to reshape my team in a way that Son doesn't. Bringing in Son leaves me very, very limited flexibility moving forward. It almost shoehorns me into keeping the current team I've got and just change around a couple of players, which isn't an issue at all because the team looks good and I've set up the team in that it doesn't need many transfers. I'm looking at this though, it's really nice. It allows me to get Antonio and Wilson in. I can then take Kane out for Ronaldo potentially. I think I'd need to find some money, right? Or is Ronaldo back down now? So I don't quite have enough yet, but it could end up looking something like this from game week 16 onwards, which is great. Obviously, I could look to bring in maybe Luke Shaw, which sounds crazy now, but obviously for Manchester United's fixtures in game week 16 and beyond, from about there, I wouldn't mind having a double or triple up. So my team could look very, very good moving forward if we bring in Jota. So I'm almost telling myself I'm bringing in Jota here, but let me know down below based on this what you're thinking. At the end of the day, my team does not look bad at all. If I just do Havertz to Son and keep the current team, it looks fantastic. What we're now going to do is just, you know what, I won't even cut scene. We're going to go straight to it now. This is using FPL.Team. So I've used this website quite a few times in my video. I'm not affiliate of it. I know the guy that runs it, Peter. He's a top guy. It's completely free of charge. I don't think he even has a patron or ability to give him money. So I'm getting nothing from this. He's getting no money from it at all. But he's just a great guy that's made a fantastic site. So what you can do is you can plan ahead on this. The only thing that it doesn't do is it doesn't have your budget there. So you need to probably switch between the two to work out how much money you've got each week, which is the only thing that it probably lacks. But other than that, it's really, really useful. So if I just do Havertz to Son, right? So this is how my team would look for this coming week. I'd probably still, I might captain Son, to be honest. I'd probably still captain Kane. My team would look something like this for the coming week. It would stay identical. Next week, this is how the team looks. So Livramento would definitely come out. Saka would come in. And I think Emerson Royale would come in for Armstrong. Remember, I still have 2 free transfers here, but I have 0 in the bank. I don't think I even need to make a transfer here. I'd probably react to potential injuries. Or I might just downgrade Armstrong to like a Davis, which would give me some money in the bank. So I could do something like that. I would then have a very, very weak bench is the only thing. Norman would have to move to second bench. So that would really weaken my bench. But what that does is it gives me a bit of money. I would have about 1.5 million in the bank. And then I could start upgrading Son, Tony, etc. once again to Wilson, to Foden. Or to Jota, sorry. That would be a potential option. So that's not bad. So I could, as I said, then I could bring in Jota for Saka. Probably not the week to do it when Saka's got Newcastle. So I could get Jota in, but it would leave me with an incredibly weak bench for game week 13 and beyond. And I'm not convinced that that's the best thing to do. If I did that moving forward, let's say I brought in Jota and Davis for Armstrong and Saka. This is how the team would look once again for game week 14. I would have 1 free transfer and very little in the bank. I could, at this stage, potentially look to take out Tony. But once again, my team doesn't look fantastic this week. It might be that I want to play some sort of 5-4-1. This would be a week where you suck up a red arrow or you hope that you get a small green arrow because the team doesn't look great. Moving forward, though, you can see that the team doesn't require that many transfers. Look at this week. I haven't made any transfers here since like game week 13. The team looks fine. I've got the triple up of Spurs for Norwich. I've got Mbomo against Leeds. I could do that straight away. And I've got double Brentford against Leeds. I've got triple Liverpool against Wolves. The team looks really good. West Ham for James. Cancelo against Watford. I'd be relatively happy. If we go forward once again, the team still looks absolutely great. I wouldn't need to make any transfers again. So what I'm showing you is my team is really well set up. And I knew this. I've planned in advance. I'm not surprised looking ahead. I'm not surprised that my team looks good every week. The reason for that is because you plan when you play your wild card. So what I advise you guys do is when you're making your transfers, plan ahead. And what I'm looking at this and thinking now, and now this is going to go against what I just said, is that I don't need to stress too much about bringing Son in and not being able to do that much with my team, because I almost don't need to. If I make that downgrade of Armstrong to Davis, I can just keep Tony and Kane for the time being. And as I said, around game week 16, I could potentially look to then take out Kane for Ronaldo to bring him in for the great fixtures, captain against Norwich. I would just need to find maybe a couple of mil, 0.2, 0.3 mil, which might just be a simple downgrade of Jota. Or I might want to downgrade Emerson after the nice Tottenham fixtures. I could just do literally something as simple as... Can't think of any 4.5 off the top of my head. We'll just go for Duffy for now. I know that's not a great transfer for this period coming up. But you could do anything like that. Just downgrade to a cheaper defender. And then I can get Ronaldo in. So I almost don't need to stress about bringing in Son and it giving me limited flexibility, because my team is in a great position anyway. I don't know that I need the flexibility of going for Jota over Son. And as I've just shown you, I can potentially bring in Jota and Son. It would just require a downgrade of one of my players to a fodder, and it would leave my bench a little bit weak. So this is what I'm thinking at the moment. If I just go back to game week 12 and I just reset my team, this is how the team is currently set up. Obviously, my captain was like this. So I just need to decide what I want to do with this position, is the long and short of it. Do I bring in Son or do I bring in Jota? As I said, if I bring in Jota, the team still looks good for this week and future weeks, and it gives me a lot of money in the bank. So next week, this is how my team looks. And I would still have 2 free transfers, but this time I would have 2.8 million in the bank to decide to do something with that. And it's just whether I feel like I need that. If I don't feel like I need that, I might potentially take the punt on Son. So let me know down below. Hopefully that wasn't too much rambling. Hopefully you enjoyed the thought process behind that. Let me know what you think I should do with my team. Also, as always, let me know what your dilemmas are as well, because I'm always keen to try and help you. And even though I've got some stuff going on, I know a lot of you guys have been helping each other as well in the comments, which I appreciate so much. So if you see someone posting their dilemma below and you want to chat FPL, just reply to them and help them out, because I can't always do that and other people can't. So help each other out. We are a community at the end of the day. Whilst we all want to win FPL, that's very unlikely, in which case it doesn't matter if you help a few people out. And I'm sure everyone will appreciate it very much if you do help them. So guys, before we finish for today, just wanted to tell you about a possibility of supporting the channel further and also getting some support yourself. And that is by becoming a member of the channel. Now, for those of you that don't know what this is, a lot of people obviously want to support content creators where they can. And what usually we've done, if they've given the ability for viewers to support their favorite content creators. And what the content creators do is they give the viewers some sort of potential perk or return for supporting the channel. So if you want to support me in some way, what you can do is become a member for a small monthly fee, and in return I've listed out some potential perks. Now, for Raptor Tier 2 supporters, because it's a very, very small amount, it's 99p per month. The perks that you get is you get a badge next to your name depending on how long you've been. So for 1 month it's the normal Raptor logo. For 1 month it's the green, for 2 months it's blue, for 6 months it's bronze, 1 year silver, and then 2 years gold. So you get that little badge next to your name, and you can also use some custom emojis. We've got green arrow, red arrow, captaincy. We've got a thinking philosopher, we call it a Velociraptor, where he's like a raptor thinking, which was created by Johnny, one of our members. So we've got some potential custom emojis as well. So if you just want to do a little bit of support for me, you can become a Raptor Tier 2 supporter, which you can see that amazing list of people have become. Raptor Tier 1, because it's more money per month, I think it's $4.99 per month, is obviously a lot more perks associated with that. So as well as having what all of the Raptor Tier 2 members have, you also get to join our Raptor Tier 2 Fantasy Premier League. So we've got a Raptor Tier 1 Fantasy Premier League where I think I'm like 6th or 7th, because our league is just full of great managers. But more importantly, the best thing about it is we've got a group chat on Twitter with all of us in, and we just chat all day, every day about everything. And as you guys know, I've been going through some stuff in my personal life, and these Raptor Tier 1 supporters, as well as some Raptor Tier 2 as well, of course, but these Raptor Tier 1 supporters have pretty much all messaged me privately just to check that I've been okay. And also what I like is that the chat's still been going every single day, hundreds of messages, because they're all still supporting each other. And I love that when I'm not available to give you advice and to support you, that there's this nice little community and everyone's still supporting each other. So I know that the content, the discussions, apologies, have still been popping off in that chat. So if you want constant support, because we've got people in different time zones as well, the chat's almost always active. So if you're ever looking for a place where you want to just bounce ideas off of people that play FPL all day, every day, and are hardcore fans of not only FPL, but the content on my channel as well. So we've got a lot of Raptor fans, of course, as well in there. If you want that sort of community feel, then you can consider becoming a Raptor 1 member. There is no obligation to do so. I would never ask someone to do this, but I know a lot of you want to support me in some way, and I like this because you're supporting me, but you're getting something in return. And so I really like it anyway. So you get to privately message me. I'll follow you on Twitter. You get to be a part of the chat, and you also get to be a part of our FPL League mini league as well. So lots of perks in there. I will continue to add perks over the years as well, and potentially add some different rap tiers in as well. But for the time being, if you want to support the channel, what you can do is you can click the join button next to the subscribe button if you're on desktop. If you're on mobile, you have to click the link in the description. There probably won't be the join button there. If you have any questions about it, you can DM me on Twitter and I will try to respond to that. But the main thing I want to say is thank you to all of these guys for not only supporting the channel, but for most of them for reaching out to me, as well as the people watching. These guys have obviously privately messaged me, and I appreciate that so much. And I genuinely see you all as a mini family. And if your name's on this list, thank you so much. I appreciate you individually very, very much. And I look forward to building our relationships in the future as well. So guys, there you have it. That is my team selection ahead of Game Week 12. As always, drop whatever you want to chat about down below in the comments. I'll try and start responding once again. As I said, my situation isn't much better at all. If anything, it's probably worse. But this really does help creating content for you guys, putting on a smile. It is almost a show that you have to put on, but it genuinely perks my mood up, because I just think about how supportive you guys are and how much you appreciate the content and just all the kind words. And so I love it. And I just appreciate you all very much. And so I will get back into responding to all the comments. So drop your dilemmas down below. I'll get around to responding to them. And also, as I said, if you've got any ideas for me, or you've got a strong opinion one way or the other which transfers I should be making, do let me know. Absolutely. I would be very, very interested to hear your opinion. As I said, support the channel for free by either liking, commenting, subscribing, or by downloading OneFootball. If you want to support the channel in a way that requires a small amount of money, you can either become a member of the channel, as we just discussed in the past section, or you can buy my book, which is always randomly plugged around my channel. It's the background behind me as well. So if you want to learn more about the psychological side of FPL, and also about the psychology of yourself, it's not just about FPL. I talk about decision making in everyday life, and about how to interview, and all sorts of like random nuggets of information that I've accumulated across the years of wisdom that I would say. I know I'm a very young guy. I'm only 24 years old, but I've still got some wisdom that I like to share with people. And that book is full of basically everything that I know about psychology, all applied to FPL. So if you also want to support the channel and get a nice book, maybe add it to your Christmas list. That would be a nice way to support the channel as well. So I'll stop rambling on and asking you to support me, because you already do enough just by being here and watching the video. The next video will be the classic Game Week preview video. So I'll be asking for your questions very, very soon over on Twitter and on YouTube community. So get your questions ready, and I'll be covering as many of those as I can. But until next time, guys, thank you so much for the support. I really do appreciate and love you all very, very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.